Basketball is an interesting subject for me. It is the number one thing everyone wants to talk about, and it is just not the number one thing in my life.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Ashley, and today I'm joined by Britt Hunter. On the surface, Britt's story looks like the ultimate highlight reel. She was the number one recruit in the country, Nike All-American, McDonald's All-American, number one everything. She played basketball at Duke and UConn, two of the most elite programs in college basketball, and honestly, a path that my 16-year-old self would have fully idolized at the time. But there's so much more beneath the surface, and that's exactly what this podcast is all about. Her journey has come with its unique challenges, including a moment on the court that changed everything and redirected her path, ultimately leading her to Vanderbilt for her MBA, to teaching in public education, to a small company called Microsoft. And now she is one of the most trusted voices in youth development, a leadership coach, speaker, and brand new published author. She's on a mission to help young people figure out who they are, what they stand for, and how to take ownership of their choices. So, with that, Britt, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining me.
Awesome. I do not do that good of a job when I have guests on my podcasts. I have got to tighten up. I kind of just go, introduce yourself however you want people to know you. It's a little
Oh,
lazy,
well,
but thank
I
you.
forgot to mention that too. Podcast host, Britt, just add that to the resume, right?
All right.
But super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. As you know, this podcast is about our personal journeys, overcomings, adversity, and the moments that shape us and really inspire us to where it is we are today. And you've reached the pinnacle of what most young female athletes would dream of. But take us a bit behind the scenes into your journey and through that, career ending injury that changed everything and started down a path of pivots.
Yeah, I guess we'll start when I started playing basketball. I always like to ask people this question, which is, when do you think I started playing basketball?
Well, I would say from a very young age, but I mean, I hate to say we've had an offline conversation, but
I did.
from the outside looking in, right? You would say 6 years old, 7 years old.
Yeah,
So
and
you tell us, Britt, when did you start playing basketball as a number one, former number one in the country?
yeah, I started pretty late. I started at 11 because or was it 12? One of those ages, because my sister was playing, and I played in 6th grade, and then I wasn't allowed to play in 7th grade because I got a couple C's on my report card, and then I kind of just thought it was over. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not playing basketball anymore. It wasn't something I wasn't like gunning for it. I was like, I need to play. I just wanted something to do outside of school. And we didn't really have too many options. So this was an option that was available through the school we went to. We didn't really have to pay additional fees. The biggest hurdle was logistics. How do we get there? I lived on the east side of Columbus, and the school was on the north side of Columbus. And it just required parents dropping you off, which is normal. But when you live in a single parent household, I have a father. He's my stepdad. He has since passed, but they weren't living together. So it was a lot of just communication, like pick her up, drop her off. She's got a game. Oh, wait, there's an open practice. Oh, wait, there's a scrimmage. And, kids super last minute. I'm like, we have practice today. They're like, what? Like, it's like, well, I guess you're not going. I didn't know about it till just now. A lot of that going on. And then 8th grade, I got to play again. And by the time I became a freshman, people around the city had been talking, like refs. And were talking to my dad and coming up to him after the games. I went to predominantly white schools for middle school. So, we had refs that were kind of like, maybe you should put her in something a little bit more challenging. She's got great ability, she's got great potential. That word potential, I think, goes through my entire life story. Everyone else sees potential in me that I don't see. I think that's most people's issue. But when someone tells me I can do something, I go, okay, I'll do it then. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. That's kind of my attitude towards things. And from eighth grade is when I started actually going into ninth grade. Ninth grade was the first time I started playing AAU. And AAU, for people who don't know, is where you get seen. You can play for a school, but your school has to travel. And some schools do. My school did not travel. So I joined the AAU team. This was the most competitive AAU team in the state, all Ohio. And they had graduated so many WNBA players, so many college professionals. Like all Ohio was a really big deal at the time. And so I would say between the summer of eighth grade to my junior year, I became the number one player in the country. I mean, it was a very short period of time when you look back at it, and it all happened very quickly. I like to tell people it was not a goal of mine. I did not know that they ranked players. I found out they ranked players the same day I found out I was number one. My coach told me, I was like, oh, you're the number one player in the country now. And I was like, based on what? What are we talking about? I don't even know the other two, three, four, and five players. I just didn't know anything. I liked my team. I played against and with them, and that's all I cared about. So it was an interesting time because I had a lot of teammates and friends who wish they could be in my position. I was like, I wish you could have it. Honestly, I don't even know how I got here, which no one wants to hear, right? That's infuriating for somebody who's a basketball head. That just wasn't me. And that's happened a few times, right? I remember when I got my first coaching job, I had teammates who felt away because I didn't really want it. I was like, I don't really want to be a coach. They're like, are you kidding me? You're getting a coaching job out of college at an A10 school. What are we talking about? I was like, but again, I maximized any opportunities I had. But yeah, basketball is an interesting subject for me. It is the number one thing everyone wants to talk about, and it is just not the number one thing in my life. And it's always been a friction there with that because you have to put on a show about basketball. And basketball wasn't, it was great. And then it wasn't great. All of it happening in a very short period of time.
We talk a lot about on this podcast, a lot about that identity, performance pressure, perception, right? Who
Yeah.
others, may think that you are versus who you really are.
Yeah.
Did that blur the lines at all for you? How do you stay grounded in who it is that you are, or even just being self-aware of who you're becoming as a young person that's developing in these stages?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't care. And people didn't like that either. That's what's interesting about sports to me. And what's interesting about like, I guess I could consider myself famous at that time, right? There was some fame behind that, especially in my city, the city of Columbus, in the state of Ohio. People knew my name when I traveled for ball. People knew my name, and that was never a goal of mine. That's not the type of person that I am. I never try to be. My friend put it perfectly. She's like, it's so funny when like you become the center of attention because you don't do it purposely. It kind of happens to you and then you just take it on if it happens. But I don't like walk into rooms and make a lot of noise. People gravitate towards me in that way. But basketball is one of those things where everyone is almost living vicariously through you.
Mhm.
So even my dad was, I think about this now. My dad used to always want to talk about basketball. After the game, after practice, he wanted me to like engage, and I just didn't feel like it. I never did. And he thought it was like teenage angst. It's like I just don't care that much. Before I played basketball, I was and am still a huge book nerd.
Mm.
Like give me some books. When I was a teacher, I would tell my parents, my students, stop giving me Starbucks gift cards. Stop buying me plants. All I want is a Sephora gift card and a Barnes and Noble's gift card. This is all I care about. This is the books, the makeup I need for work. But this over here, give me some books. I love books. I loved building with Kinects. I loved erector sets. I loved nature. I liked so many other things. And basketball was not a passion of mine. But when you play a sport and you're good, the assumption is that you love it. And people would always ask me, "Do you love it?" And I would say no. I would honestly say no, I don't really love it. It was a hard sport to adjust to. As I said, I started late. So when you start late and you start playing with really good players, they don't have patience for you, as they shouldn't. They're like, "Dude, catch the ball." Like, why is she walking like a giraffe? What is happening? We're like 14, 15. They're like, "What is this?" And I had to grow up really fast. And kind of resented it a little bit. It was hard. I love what basketball has done for me, but it was not something I absolutely loved. I just happened to be really good at it, and I was really athletic, but I also was I found out I was extremely disciplined. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you're disciplined because you played a sport." No, I'm a disciplined person. Sports brought it out and sports highlighted it. And then I got to learn that my discipline gets me these things. So now I remain disciplined, but it was a weird relationship, which made it much more frustrating when I got hurt. I was shocked that I was so sad. So I blew my knee out, third game of the season. I come in preseason All American. I have a 30 point, 15 rebound exhibition game. And then third full game of the season, I blow my knee out and I'm never the same afterwards. Not even close. I don't trust my knee. I don't trust my body. I'm really not supposed to play on it. I was supposed to actually be done playing basketball after that injury. And I was depressed. And it didn't make sense because I don't love this thing. So why am I so sad? And that was very confusing for me.
There's so many follow-up questions to that. But what do you think in that was the self-discovery in that process, or is it still something that you don't know why you felt that way?
I mean, I think I get it now, right? It's like what people talk about when they get fired from their jobs or they lose their jobs. It's a part of their identity. For me, the biggest insecurity was I'm not performing the way that I'm supposed to, the way that people believe I should be, and I don't know what to do about it. It was out of my control, so that was irritating me to no end. I wanted to work out, like that's how you get better, right? If I'm missing layups became this thing that I did. I was an automatic 2 points in the paint, automatic. And for whatever reason, after that, I could not make a layup. It was stressing me out, and I got more in my head. And I'm like, okay, I need to get into the gym and fix it. I can't go in the gym because I'm not allowed. And it just became this vicious cycle of this is out of my control. And it doesn't make sense how this is out of my control. I was able to get myself here. You tell me I can't get out of this hole. It was maddening. I think that was one of the biggest issues was my sense of control. I had a complete loss of control. I couldn't determine my own fate. That took me out for sure. I think it was a lot of external pressure of I'm not performing the way I was supposed to. I'm so glad social media did not exist when it did. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful NIL did not exist when it did. I can't imagine any more of me being tied to other people's perceptions. It was already on my shoulders and nobody was even verbally saying anything to me. I just felt it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I mean, you mentioned social media, that's something I wanted to get into a bit into this conversation, later on because I heard it, another interview you did about the time where you were off for, I think, 5 years, and, I recently deleted my Instagram, so now I'm just down to LinkedIn.
Then you're gonna scroll it. You're gonna
I've
start
never been
scrolling.
on it so much.
Yeah, you're
It's
gonna
so
start
bad.
scrolling Venmo next. I learned who was dating, who had moved in. I learned so much through Venmo. The scrolling thumb is the problem. It's not Instagram, it's this now, but enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, but I wanna talk a bit on that, but before that, I wanna go back to, when you had the injury and kind of going through this, process mentally as well through it and everything with identity and performance and what's next. I think about what you mentioned earlier about the other interests that you had, right, in reading or, and just always tapping into those other spaces. How much do you think that has helped you then when you transition into the what's next because you didn't put everything into the sport in the sense of making that all about who it is that you are,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah. Well, I did. I actually did. I did make it all about sports, which was irritating to me. So I had my suicide attempt my freshman year because I was so all in. And if I can't do this, what value do I add? Why am I here? The next best person will come in, so I'm not that important. I didn't have a great relationship with my mother at the time. I wasn't really speaking to my father, so there was no family pool. We're not like a super tight knit family. There was no family pool. My friends, I was kind of like, they'll be all right. I just was ready to toss it all away because I just didn't feel like I could go through another day of the angst. The angst was so much, the frustration was so much that I just didn't want to deal with it up here anymore.
Did it feel a bit trapping when you think about these other, activities that you really love, and then you're in the sport that you're really good at that thing, even though you may not love it, but then that becomes that identity because of how it is that you are seeing or how others are seeing you as well, and
Yeah.
that kind of perception. So
Yeah.
is that it then, where it's like less about the love for the thing, but you can still place a lot of your identity in the thing that you're really good at?
Yeah. I mean, it really came down to like your identity, so much of it is shaped by other people's perceptions,
Mm,
unfortunately. Unfortunately. Not for me, not anymore. Like, I let that ship sail. But I also feel like for most of my life, I've been trying to get back to what is that number one person supposed to be? I struggled with that for a while, right? Like, okay, we're not great at basketball. When I graduated, who am I now? And whatever I do, I have to be great. I have to match that level because I can't just like be a YMCA instructor. Nothing wrong with being a
mm,
YMCA instructor, but I was like, we can't do this. It felt like a lot of things were off limits because that would not be acceptable because that's not the level that people see me at. And so much of your identity is how other people perceive you. And it takes time for you to build your own durability in who you are and in confidence in who you are. It's hard. It's hard as hell. I'm gonna be honest. But I think what saved me, what helped me through my early 20s and even through college is growing up. I spent a lot of time alone, like in my household. We were very sheltered. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. Like I said, my mom worked nights. Well, I didn't say, but we lived in a single parent household. And when you have a single parent, they typically work odd hours. She worked at night, which means she slept during the day. And so
mhm,
we were at school. We would come home from school. She was leaving to go to work. We're not allowed to leave the house because there's three kids. You can't leave the house. Don't open the door. Don't answer the phone. Do nothing. Right. When it's time to go to school, she's coming back from work. And that was so basketball was the only thing that allowed me to leave the home once I started playing that. But before I played basketball, I spent all the time in the house and I would read, I would make stuff. I would take like toilet paper rolls, like the cardboard, and make like wind chimes with sticks and dental
mhm.
floss. Like I was just doing stuff. But I have a good time by myself. So I feel like as a young kid I got very introspective about who I am, what I like. I would, all kids would probably take a tape, take the NSYNC CD and literally write out all the lyrics because I got time. I watched every movie imaginable. I read every book possible. I spent so much time by myself that I felt very comfortable with myself. And I think a lot of kids don't really feel comfortable in their own skin today, but you need to be. If you don't like you, you don't want who you are in someone else's hands. That's a very slippery slope because it's arbitrary. But when you like you and you like spending time with you can work through anything. And I loved spending time alone. And so my college teammates, the one hobby I kept and actually doubled down on was reading. So my college teammates did not know I was depressed. I told one of them recently, like a year ago, and she was like, no way. I was like, yeah, I was miserable. Why wouldn't I be? She's like, yeah, but I don't know. You seemed fun. And like, you seemed, I was like, yeah. She was like, but you were always reading. That was my escape. If I can get 3 pages in, I can get into the character and I don't think about what's happening up here. Anything else, my attention's gonna divert and I'm gonna go back into my head. But if I'm reading, I'm locked into this narrative until we arrive at the game and then it's over. I'm back to anxious. I'm back to this sucks.
Mm.
Oh my God, I'm about to miss 15 layups off bat. Like it just was a vicious cycle. And so reading was a great hobby that I leaned into and I talk to kids about it a lot because we're all just trying to disassociate. That's what kids are doing, right? When they scroll. It's what people do. When we scroll, we're trying to disassociate, we're trying to get out of our own head, turning on music, drugs, alcohol, going on runs. You have to be mindful of what you pick up as a habit because when you're at your lowest, you're going to fall to your habits. And I'm just grateful that my habit was something productive. But I- if I had been really, really interested and I didn't smoke weed, my teammates used to make fun of me. They told me apparently I used to chastise him for smoking during the season. I'm like, "Well, why would you smoke during the season? And I would never chastise you for that. That's
Yeah.
dumb." They were like, "You did it all the time. You were so annoying." And I was like, "Well, didn't make sense to do." But I wouldn't do it because I knew I had already been in a dark hole, and I don't need anything else to take me. I don't ever want to be back in that place. I've been in a dark place. Give me nothing else because that was a horrible time. And so I made decisions about how I'm going to spend my time, and I loved reading.
Yeah, so much wisdom in that too. I think whenever you've been in a place like that, you know what that is like, that it just helps your decision making, right? Because it's not worth it. The potential that you could be back in that place again, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you have to experience that to know, right?
You do, but you also have to because a lot of people have been low. I'm like most kids, I'm sure go through some form of depression, especially in middle
Oh,
school,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's weird. Your hormones are raging, and you may or may not be having a great experience at school or at home. And depression makes sense for that to be. You just don't know what it is, but you're low, right? And it's not so much that like you don't want to go back there. You have to pull yourself out. You have to be optimistic that at some point I'll be like, this will be different. You have to be in spaces where you see something different, and then you have to decide for yourself. Everybody can tell you what to do, but you have to decide for yourself what you're going to do and how you want to be, who you want to be. And I think at a young age, as goofy and mature as I was, I think I was very mature in the decisions that I made and tried to take accountability when I had to take the L when I needed to. But even today, like I left Microsoft a year and a half ago, but for a year, no one knew this, but for a year, I was in like a situation with my manager, and I had reported her 3 times. I was feeling, and apparently a lot of Microsoft employees were experiencing this. They didn't know how to let go of people, so they were just like gaslighting them and making them feel like they weren't doing their job and making them feel dumb and just she was being so ridiculous, and it was making me so anxious that I was like afraid to open my laptop, which is weird. It's a laptop. Like I'm not. Been coached by Gino. I've been in a dark hole. What am I afraid? I'm not afraid of this lady. What is happening? And I hated it. And I recognized within 3 or 4 months that like I'd picked up some bad habits. I'd started smoking cigarettes. I wasn't going to the gym anymore. I wasn't taking care of my lawn. And it was like, wait, we've been here before. We've been here before. We know that whatever's going on, we can't control all of it, but we can control our habits. So obviously stop smoking immediately. Started going back to the gym because endorphins and all that stuff. But having gone through the dark time and coming back on the other side, you know what it takes. Either you're going to do the things you got to do or you're not. And so it requires like having been through it, but it requires like making a decision. You have to be an active participant in your life. If you sit back and wait for somebody to pull you out of something, it's probably not going to happen. That's my biggest lesson. You're going to fall into a pit. It's I would be shocked if you didn't. I'd be
Yeah.
shocked if it didn't
Yeah,
happen
yeah.
multiple times. You
Mhm.
gotta get you out. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's so good. I love what you said about, we can't control external things that are happening, but our habits we can. And that's something that, yeah, each and every one of us, no matter what it is that we go through, because, yeah, struggle comes for all of us. It just looks different, right? In different ways. And so, what are those things that tuning into yourself, like, okay, I can do this small thing. I've been there a lot of
Mhm.
times. Wake up and eat and move my body,
Yeah.
and that would be it for a day.
And that's okay.
Like, making sure, like, this is what I can do
I
today,
got a shower this
and
week. Like don't
shower. Yeah, yeah,
like don't
yeah.
like don't not shower this week, Brett. You went 3 or 4 days without showering. Maybe shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's such a strong point, because then I think slowly you find yourself like, "Okay, I'm getting back into it," and those habits over time, it becomes then, habit, and you feel like you're back a little bit back on track again.
Yeah.
But I wanna go back to, I mentioned earlier, like, I wanna touch on the social media part a
Yeah.
bit. And speaking to, just some of the ways like influence being everywhere, but we have the power to choose what it is that we're consuming. So especially with young people as well, and when maybe you're trying to discover more about who it is that you are in a way, or what you even like doing or love doing. I mean,
Yeah.
part of me why I got off of social media in the way that I have was really to check in my attention and intention with what it is that I am
Mhm.
doing and who I'm surrounding myself with. And you start to realize, like, do you actually love doing this thing, or do you love letting the world know that you're doing this thing
Yep.
and why? And it's such a heart check. So I want to go there. Also, okay, it's not intrinsically bad. It's not good or bad, right? But I want your take on this, what your relationship is now with social media, but more than that, how were maybe more focused, more present, those kind of things.
Yeah, I think the first thing to address is one of the things you said, which is like, it's not all bad for everybody.
Mhm.
It was not good for me though. At first it was fine. It was whatever. And then it became a problem because I wasn't able to focus in distance school. I wasn't able to read. And I love reading, as I've already mentioned. And I was like, why is it taking me so long to get through a 4-page case? Like, this doesn't make sense. But that's me knowing me. And it takes you to say, who am I? What are we doing? What are we doing? Forget everybody else. What are we doing? What are we on? This ain't it. We have to change for us if we want to be successful in this thing that we spend a lot of time trying to get to. And that's why my tagline is, in order to be exceptional, you have to be the exception. You have to do things that other people aren't doing, aren't willing to do. It doesn't matter. It's about you. You have to do it. And so for me, it was an easy choice because I was like, I got to get through this work. Now, when I got off, my angst came down. I didn't realize how anxious I was. I'm already anxious as a person, but I didn't realize like my habit of picking up my phone first thing in the morning. I didn't realize my habit of like, you see it in other people.
Mhm.
So my biggest takeaway for 5 years, I noticed a huge shift, and you're going to see this. I don't know how long you're going to plan on staying off, but you're going to see it for 5 years. So, for context, when I first got off, Instagram Live had just been introduced, but only celebrities had access. Like only people with a certain amount of followers. It was only celebrities. Like we didn't have influencers at the time. So only celebrities were going live. And you would see like Nicki Minaj going live and like Pink going live and like random people. And I thought to myself, that's kind of weird. Why do we care about you eating a sandwich? That's weird in my mind. Now, then I got off. Then I started noticing habits that people started developing, and I couldn't put it together. People aren't talking to you without picking their phone up. They could ask you a question and you start to answer, and then their phone comes in their hand. I'm like, did you get a call? No, they're just scrolling. They're just scrolling. They just, they're listening, but I'm just scrolling. And it's like, what is happening? And I didn't understand it because I wasn't on social media. I just was paying attention to it. Then I started noticing everybody was on live. I would see it. People would like be talking to their phone. I'm thinking they're on FaceTime. No, they're just going live, walking down the street. So then you start to see just another level of like people being really self absorbed. Then you start seeing people with flashlights on the top of their phone in dark spaces in the public. And I'm like, what is happening? This was like year 2, year 3, year 4 of being off. By year 5, I noticed that people are not only watching videos without headphones, but now they're doing other things without headphones. Now they're taking FaceTime calls without headphones. It's like you watch society just like take this turn from 5 years prior. You would never. That's like me watching a movie right now in full blast in this cafe with no headphones. That would be crazy. It was crazy to watch a video on loud in public. But now it's the norm. And it's so interesting to be on the outside looking in and being like, people are changing and we're becoming a little bit more self-absorbed, a little bit more self-absolved, and we're not as empathetic. We don't care that other people are around. We don't care about your privacy. We don't care anymore. And that I'll be honest, it irritates me to no end. I think it speaks to why people are so self-conscious because we're spending so much time advertising ourselves. For what? So I'm back on social media because of my business. But quite frankly, I'm going down to one post a week because I just don't, doesn't even feel comfortable for me to be talking to a screen. It just, it doesn't. And I'm not going to fake the funk and act like it does. People are like, you're so confident. It should feel normal. I'm like, it feels weird. Does it feel weird to you? And some people are like, it is a little weird. So why are you doing it? Why are you telling us about the banana you ate this morning? Who cares? But that's just where we're at now. And so I can't imagine being a kid thinking that that's
Yeah.
the baseline. That's not the
Yeah.
baseline. People don't need to know. My grandmother gave me the best advice. I remember one time my sister and I were fighting over using the phone because, we had one line. And I'd be like, Grandma, she takes over the phone and like Carly can't call me back. She's like, well, did you talk to Carly earlier today? I saw her in school and then I talked to her, but then she said she was going to call me back. She's like, Britt, sometimes you don't need to be so available to people. You need to not be so available to people. That's not okay and it's not normal. And she said this when we had a phone in the house. That message, though, is still true. We are we're just making ourselves so available. Kids are making themselves so available to scrutiny, judgment, information, and they actually can't control what they see. I don't know if you know the guy, the author of The Anxious Generation.
Mhm.
He did a video which he started an account. He marked himself as a 13-year-old girl, and he intentionally only liked kittens and flowers, intentionally. And then slowly, pictures of anorexic girls with eating disorders started to pop up, talking about, this is all I ate today. And it'd be like chia seeds. And
Mhm.
then he would block it. And then he would show you, these are all the things that I've liked. Here are all the things that I've blocked. Here's what's in my feed. What was in the feed was so disturbing. So,
It gives me goosebumps, actually.
yeah, you can't control it. So, I'm not a fan. The advice is control what you digest. They don't have any control, unfortunately. And these teen accounts they're making is nonsense. It's not real. I wouldn't even imagine it would be real. And then on top of that, all of these, don't get me started now, all of these billionaires don't even have. Bill Gates said a long time ago he didn't give his kids a smartphone for this very reason. You have people who create stuff and don't even give it to their own children. People are going back to flip phones because they're losing focus. Like, we have to tap back in.
Yeah.
And the kids don't even know how to tap in because they've never really been tapped in. When they're supposed to
Yeah.
learn about who they are, they're not tapped in already. So it's concerning for sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think about that a lot because even myself growing up, even in sports too, is like I still didn't have a cell phone. And that was the best part of my AAU experience was just the team, and being
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
and having those in person, at the water parks or out to eat or like all those kind of team bonding things that you did. So I can't imagine now, growing up in that where it is like sand in a way because you're exposed to so much everywhere you don't really know. You don't know yourself and how to relate to others in a way that is this real connection here. And so I feel it. I'm going to be 33 in a few months. How can I be more intentional and pay more attention and just be more aware and connect in person in ways and doing activities I love doing? So what are some of those struggles that the youth are having and how do you come into that and really get them to kind of think differently or engage in different places and spaces with people?
Yeah. So I don't teach people not to use their phones. I feel like that's a losing battle. What I teach rather
Yeah.
is, let's do a challenge. Your challenge is to make direct eye contact with the next 10 people you speak to the entire time you're speaking to them. And what will come about is, wow, that's really hard for me. Why is that really hard for you? You can do all of these other things, but you can't do this one thing that's this big. And it's because making eye contact is vulnerable. It requires you to be seen in real time. And it's hard anyway as a young adult, but it's only going to be harder if you're never forced to do it because you're constantly on your phone talking to people or someone's talking to you and you're still on your phone. Like, we're not doing that. So I want you to focus on just this activity. That opens their eyes to, wow, why is this so hard? Now we can have the conversation about why it's so hard. How do I get better at it? One, you practice it, but two, this thing over here, It's got to go. Now, are you going to get rid of your phone? No, because your ecosystem is in your phone. That's how friends are friends now, which sucks. But introducing them to here are some basic things that you need to be able to do. And now you can see for yourself if you struggle with that or not. You have to be honest. I'm excited. This will be the first place I announce it. I just entered a contract with Green County High School. So I'll be leading a 9-week program,
Let's go.
yeah, with their students. And we're going to have drills. And I want teachers to hold them accountable. They're going to have their own little report card where it's like, did they make basic stuff? Did they make eye contact for 5 straight days? Were they audible when they were speaking to you? Give them the grade because you can say you're confident, but your actions should match that. And right now, kids are showing every day they're not that confident based on how they show up. So, yes, I'm going to teach you how to do it. Yes, you're going to be held accountable. But three, you need to self reflect, which is the biggest tool we can give them. Be able to check yourself. The skill that you have of being able to like heart check, what's your baseline for checking that? Because you have some normalcy as a young adult, as a teenager, of who you are, how you function. Right now, I'm not convinced everybody knows their baseline. I think they know the baseline that they want to put out there.
You just think about that those foundational things that you're implementing in that way just from basic human connection and how challenging that can be. I mean, I even just think for myself and peers my age, it's like those are things we can also check ourselves on. Like, did you in your interactions, right? Are you making eye contact?
Yeah,
Or even things, when you're having your phone out in that as well too, and what that signals in a way. Can we get better in this? In the spirit of high performance, it's like we can we can challenge ourselves in these ways with just basic day to day.
basic stuff. We ain't got to do push ups. Have a conversation without touching your phone for 20 minutes. We need to do some mental push ups, you know? It's tough. I can't imagine having a kid. I can't imagine trying to manage this without saying directly no. I think you can't take things away. Every generation thinks that the next generation's weird and crazy and has access to too much. It's fine. You can't say no, you can't take it away. So how can we teach them to be mindful and aware and have agency? Because we're not going to excuse them when they're 30. We're not going to tolerate it. We're going to be like, you guys are weird and we don't like it. Well, we can curb that a little bit. We can meet them where they're at. We can adjust to, but we can also keep some social norms. And I don't know that our social norms, I see other countries implementing things as they should. I believe UK banned phones. They were talking to a girl. She said, I think someone asked her what was her average screen time. She said 9 hours. And the lady asked her, what do you do now when you're bored? She's like, stare at a wall. And it was like, yeah, that checks out. You stare at a wall and then you go find something to do, or you take a nap, or you do nothing. And we need boredom. We need stillness. We
Yeah.
need silence.
Amen.
We need it as people. We can't constantly be taking in information. It's not good. So I see other countries taking strides, and I don't see us taking those strides, or we're slow to move, and it's detrimental. Period. Full stop. So I'm not going to fight against it, but I am going to point some things out. And if you are who you say you are, if you are trying to be where you want to be, and you want to follow my lead, I don't know all things, but I'm been pretty successful. I hope to inspire them to say, I want to get to this level. What does it take?
Yeah, it's such impactful work that you're doing, Britt. And I think even just being able to bridge that gap too, where it's like you can relate in a lot of ways, to where someone has been or where they want to go, in their life, or if they're an athlete, it's just like, going back to the top of the conversation, right? You've been there, done that, You can't really get more elite
Yeah,
than the things that you have achieved, right? And I applaud you and admire the work that you're doing. I feel like I've learned so much just in this conversation. There's so many, takeaways and insights that you share in ways that we can just continue to check in with ourselves, be more aware. And
yeah,
again, going back to the habit as well too, controlling what you can control with what you have, because we can't control our circumstances and times and things happen, but how we respond and how we move forward with that we can. So thank you for being here and
yeah.
for having this conversation, really.
I appreciate it. I think also shout out to you, man. I mean, like I tell people, your story is your own unique story, and not getting what you want can, you wanted to be the elite player, and then you played with people who became elite players on their own teams, and that's hard to watch. It takes a mature person to grow from that. I like to give the barbershop analogy because I can go in a room and be like, anybody been to a local barbershop? The old guys in it, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, what are they usually talking about? And they all know. They're like, oh, they always talking about I was a state champ, and then the coach cut me because he ain't like me, and da da da. And their story stops there, and it is exhausting. And they share the same story day in and day out about what happened to them and who took it away, and they're stuck in time. 60 years old, still talking about how they peaked versus this thing happened to me. It was taken from me. So and so cut me because they didn't like me, but I was also kind of a jerk, so it made sense. I put myself in a position to never be cut again from any way in any circumstance, whether it be a job, a relationship, whatever. Some type of commitment to yourself versus look at what somebody did to me. It requires a certain level of emotional maturity that everybody doesn't possess. You can learn it, but yeah, I mean, I applaud you because I've never been in your shoes, right? I've only had my life. I don't know what it's like to I do. I have an idea, right? We talked about this when I graduated and all my teammates are in the WNBA. WNBA wasn't a goal of mine. It was expected. I was expecting it to happen, but just watching myself kind of like fall away from where I was supposed to be and watching them rise, that gap is tough to muster. It's tough to swallow without being hateful. Like, I'm happy for you, but I'm also very jealous. And I hate this for myself. And why you? Why not me? Like, this, it takes a lot to get out of that and be grateful for what you have. So I applaud you for doing that.
Thank you for that, Britt, really. That means a lot. I appreciate this conversation, your time, your wisdom. I know you're doing just incredible, work with the youth in that age as well too. That's not an easy feat. So all the kudos to you, and I know you just released a book as well in March.
You did. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
So for those listening as well to learn more about you, the work that you're doing, to get your book, where can listeners go?
Yeah, first and foremostly, go to my website, www.betheexceptioncoaching.com. It is a long word. It made sense when I made it. We're going to keep it.
I love it. I love it.
Be exceptional, man. Just be exceptional. And so my email is Britt Hunter at betheexceptioncoaching.com. But people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there the most. I'm also on Instagram at Coach B Hunt _. Like I said, I'm toning that down. I can't. It's so much work. Like,
It is such work,
I
right?
just don't
It's like,
care, but I have to care. But like, I don't want to care. I want to care about how I deliver my lesson. How about that? I care about that. I care about how I show up in real life over how I show up on
yes.
this screen. I cannot give this
Amen.
so much energy. Like, this is so much work. So I have a I roll to IG, but LinkedIn, super helpful to meet people there. But yeah, my book is called Own Your Adventure. It is a workbook. So I think that's the best part. It's interactive. It reads like a choose your own adventure style book. For those who don't remember what those books are, I've never heard of them. It's when you are the main character in the story and you get to choose, you get to make choices throughout the whole book. If you want to go in the cave, go to page 71. If you want to go around the cave, go to page 13. And sometimes the story ends. Sometimes you get eaten by the dragon, that's it, start over. And that's how life is. And so I intentionally made my book like that because I want people to understand that you have to make choices, period, full stop. You have to weather things that happen to you, and you have to weather mistakes that you've made. In either way, you have to own it and you have to move forward. And so I provide worksheets and exercises for people to work through. How do I get better at being late? How do I get better at building trust? How do I get better at asking for help? So stuff that I thought was helpful for me.
So good. I love that. I love the adventure and the journey of it all. And that's, I think, what Endurance Diaries is all about, right? You don't know what's coming, but we have the endurance within us to keep going and the power to choose along the way. So thank you so much, Britt. This has been awesome. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, excited to continue to follow along your journey too. So thank you.
Thank you. This is great.